This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast. I'm Marianne Matzo.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete.
So grab whatever the heck you're drinking these days. Dessert, hamburger, I don't know.
You mean drinking desserts and hamburgers?
You know what? Wouldn't that be cool? Not in the same drink, though. No,
because one time I had my jaws wired. It's a long story, but you should have seen the other guy. And and I had to do that. Food had to be put food in the blender and suck it through a straw.
Did people say "suck it, Charlie"?
No, not to me. So where were we?
Anyway.
Yes. So we were drinking hamburgers.
Yes, and so why don't you relax? Thank you for spending the next hour with us as Charlie's going to talk about last curtain calls. In the second half, we're going to discuss lessons learned from people who are at the end of their lives from the book, The 5 Invitations. This is our third part of that 3-part series. And talk specifically about invitations number 4, find a place in the middle of things, and number 5, cultivate a don't know mind. Later in our third half, we're going to be drinking with death.
Cheers. So,
Salud.
Yes. Listen, everyone, we appreciate those of you who subscribe to our podcast, and you can support our show by rating us, awarding 1 to 5 stars, and leaving a review.
Mostly 5.
Yeah, mostly 5. Did I say I didn't say 1 though? Did I? Actually, yeah, 4 to 5. Oh, just kidding. 1 to 5 stars, and leaving a review. We are a not-for-profit organization and would love your help in distributing our work. Molly, our Twitter wench, is anxiously awaiting to tweet with you.
So please go to Everyone Dies, that's EVERY, the number 1, dies, and send us your recipes and your ideas and your feedback. And also, we appreciate your questions, your jokes, and anything else you want to tell us.
Actually, we had a comment from a listener, Rick from Yukon, Oklahoma. And he said we are driving him crazy talking about all the chocolate recipes because he is on a keto diet.
Oh, that poor man.
He is poor no longer because this week's Death by Chocolate recipe is for you, Rick. If you has as big a sweet tooth but are on a keto diet, you're probably in the same boat as Rick. The good news for us is delicious chocolate is easier to come by than you might think on a keto diet. Of course, we're not talking about Hershey bars or some other kind of brands that are loaded with sugar. As low-carb dieting is becoming more and more popular, the options have been exploding. So, my personal, I'd say I have a couple of favorites of no sugar added chocolate. I enjoy Lily Sweets and Chalk Zero. These chocolates, they're a little pricey, but they're definitely worth it for battling your cravings. While Chalk Zero is only available online, I like, you know what, I can usually find Lily's in the health sections of grocery stores. I was going to say not all grocery stores, but yeah, just find it pretty easily. So, and sometimes you can even find the bars on sale. So that's when I stock up.
Mm.
So the cake is the chocolatiest creation. It's moist, rich, and wonderfully decadent. Best of all,
that sounds like me.
Yes, I looked this up and a picture of you popped up. Best of all, where was I? Oh. But
did you get distracted?
Yes, I did. So,
I'm sorry.
But you know what? The thing about it is, it's easy to make. The ingredients are basic ingredients. You don't have to run all over town to find them. So this keto Death by Chocolate cake is for the ultimate chocolate lover. It's the perfect low-carb sweet treat to satisfy your cravings. So go to our webpage for the recipe. everyonedies.org. That's the number one dies.org.
Well, that sounds wonderful, and the picture looks just over the top.
Thank you. I drew that in crayon and put it there.
You colored so good.
I know.
So Charlie, do you have a story to report and the ongoing segment of Last Calls, people who died in front of a crowd?
Do I have a story? I have several stories, Marianne. So let's start with Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter / wildlife expert / TV personality, who, during a break while filming his TV show, decided to snorkel and was stung by a stingray stinger, which pierced his heart and caused him to bleed to death.
Jeez.
Yep. On a lighter note, Carmen Miranda, also known as the Brazilian bombshell.
Was she the Chiquita Banana Lady?
The Chiquita Banana Lady was I can't think of the word, but basically, thank you, Jesus, based on Carmen, yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So she sang.
Do you want to hear my Chiquita Banana impersonation?
Hang on, I'm going to flip a coin. Damn, lost again. Yes, please. I would love to. Love to, please, yes.
I'm a Chiquita Banana, and I come to say... And I don't know the rest of the words. So
I laughed. I cried. I mostly cried. So Ms. Miranda had a fruit and all, collapsed while performing a song on TV. But, yeah. But the pro she was, she got up and she finished the song and then died of a heart attack.
Oh. My God.
I know. It was Jimmy Durante's show. Yeah, it was the old, as opposed to the new Jimmy Durante show. Yeah, it was a Jimmy Durante show.
Didn't you love Jimmy Durante?
Yes.
I just thought he was adorable.
You know, not, and I don't know why, but his rendition of Stardust and the September song. You know, again, minimum range. Local boy from Brooklyn who did good. I don't know. He just seemed to find just the right sentiment for those songs. But still, with Stardust, sorry, Nat King Cole. No one can touch Nat King Cole's interpretation of that.
Are you going to do an interpretation?
Absolutely not. Are you kidding, Nick? No, absolutely not. No. It would take more than one glass of this chocolate cake drink to do that. No, and even then, I still wouldn't do it. No. Well, okay, maybe just no, I'm not going to do it. So.
See, if I stay quiet long enough, you'll start singing.
No. So. Moving on, between film takes, Brandon Lee, actor and son of Bruce Lee, was accidentally shot and killed by a prop gun while filming The Crow. Ooh. Yeah. And then
How did that happen? Did somebody put like a real bullet in it?
Oh, no, it wasn't. Oh, you know what? I'm mixing him up with. Yeah, good thing I did all my proper homework. No, I don't think. No, wait a minute. There was a real bullet. Folks, I apologize. I don't remember now. I'm going to say that, no, it was a prop gun, but no, that's what it was. It was a prop gun, but the prop gun somebody picked up the prop gun and shot it off like next to him or at him, but at very close range. Because there was another actor, gosh, I see his face and I don't remember his name. But he put a prop gun to his head and killed himself. Vic Morrow, actor, while filming Twilight Zone the movie, was decapitated by a helicopter blade when the chopper crashed on him. Actually, what makes it worse, there are also a couple of kids, and they were... they were killed as well.
The kids?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were filming it was from an episode of the original series where, but in this in the update, he's in Vietnam, and the kids
Oh.
are, two, Vietnamese children,
Hmm.
and yeah, they were all killed, but yeah, decapitated by a chopper blade when
Oh.
the blade just flew off.
Oh.
Yeah. Next, after leaving the heavy metal band Megadeth to pursue jazz, drummer Nick Menza collapsed on stage. They administered CPR, but were unable to revive him. Continuing on a musical note, 87-year-old Jane Little, a bass player for the Atlantic Symphony Orchestra for 71 years. I mean, she started when she was like 15 or 16 years old. Died on stage while performing.
What a great way to go.
Yeah, doing something you love. Yeah.
Yeah. What was she playing? Do you know?
No. But I can
It'd
look
be
it up.
great, like if she was like playing a requiem or something, you know?
I remember it wasn't a requiem. It was some symphony, but it wasn't a requiem though. Yeah, that would have been great.
So I like to create my own storylines, true or not.
We always create our own storylines. It's just the way humans operate. Yeah,
that's
deep.
heavy.
It's deep.
That's heavy. Yeah,
it is heavy. Yeah. Well, on the Dick Cavett Show, back in 1971, Jerome Rodale, an advocate of organic food, and this was at a time when, I mean, today organic food is, everywhere. But back in 71, I mean, this was, long before it was normal. So this guy, Jerome Rodale, sorry, but that by eating organic food, that would allow him to, quote, live to 100. And guess what happened a few minutes later? In front of a live studio audience, he died.
Wow.
Cavett, and then Cavett asked the crowd, "Is there a doctor in the house?" Which, of course, got a big laugh. And then years later, Cavett said that he wasn't going to say it because he knew it was people would, think it was a gag or something. But he went ahead and said it anyways. But then, actually, at a Friars Club roast in the late 50s, it was a roast for Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Mm-hmm. Comedian Harry Einstein. He was a father of Albert Brooks and Bob Einstein, better known as Super Dave Osborne. Yes. Actually, speaking of Albert Brooks. So, if his brother's name was Bob Einstein, his father was Harry Einstein, what is Albert Brooks' birth name?
Albert Einstein?
Yes. I think that's great. Yeah, so Brooks obviously changed it.
Oh my God. That shows how much of a sense of humor his parents had, huh?
Yep. Well, no. This was before. Well, no, because he would have. No, Einstein was you're right, because Einstein, of course, Albert Brooks had to be born in the mid to late 40s.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, Einstein was a household name. Yeah, and with that, in a future segment, in our feature of Adventures in Post-Mortem, I'll be talking about Professor Einstein, and well, I don't want to give it away, but he lost something after his death. So, anyways, Harry Einstein finished his testimonial, went back to his seat. He was sitting next to Milton Berle, sat down, and just sank into Berle's lap. And Milton Berle, just like yelled, "It's like, this is what, is there a doctor in the house?" Which again got a big laugh. And coincidentally, there actually were several doctors in the house. with the friars roast, a lot of the time they were for charities, especially for hospitals. So by coincidence, there were a lot of doctors in the house. But Mr. Einstein died of a heart attack right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope it was a good dinner, good Last Supper.
Oh,
I would be pissed if I had like a bowl of cottage cheese and then died,
Yeah, that being your last meal.
Yeah, that would really, really upset me.
Well, also at the Friars Club a few years later, comedian Al Kelly. Again, he returned to his seat after roasting comedian Joe E. Lewis. Just received this tremendous standing ovation. He got back up to take a bow. A few seconds later, he collapsed and died.
Wow.
I don't know if anyone asked if there was a doctor now.
Now, that'd be a good way to go. Getting a standing O and just lights out.
Oh, you know what? Yes.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like you'd say, "Oh, I was so happy I could have died and gone to heaven," and then
yes,
yeah.
Perhaps this is something we can put up on the site. How would you like to go?
Yes, excellent idea.
How would you like to go? Yeah,
I think a lot of people would say, "I don't want to go."
Oh no! When it's time, I want to go. I can't. I mean, my father's 95. He's in good shape, takes good care of himself, and all his faculties. He's a voracious reader, and if I were in a state like that where I could still think and read and pee, and preferably still make my own martinis. I don't want to have to give that up.
Pee while you're reading. Yeah. That's always nice.
Didn't I say reading?
No, I said pee while you're reading, or reading while you pee.
No, but you see, but then the possibility of that. What if you die on the toilet? What if I were to pull an Elvis?
See, but that's where a lot of people, that's a big place to die.
Actually, it's true. Yes, yeah.
By bowel movements.
Yeah.
I could explain the pathophysiology to you of that if you're ever interested.
Oh, please. Well, maybe you could make it into a coloring book.
Yeah.
So, yes. So Al Kelly died. So, and then many years later, staying with comedians, many years later, not at the Friars Club, comedian Ian Cognito, a British comedian, was joking.
Cognito?
Yes, his real name. Oh, brother, I just forgot. That's right. Ian Cognito. And of course, I've forgotten his real name. Jeez. But not his real name. He was he was joking about his health, and then at one point said, and I quote, "Imagine if I died in." Hang on a second. Let me get this right. Imagine if I died in front of you lot here. Guess what he did a few minutes later?
No.
Yes. Yep.
So they didn't have to imagine for very long, did they?
No. He was dead and gone. Also on stage performing, Dimebag Darrell, not his real name. Actually, his real name, why do I remember this? Darrell Lance Abbott.
So I know what his side hustle was, huh?
Why? What do you mean?
Well, Dimebag Darrell.
No, what do you mean? Please explain. No, I got it. So he was a guitarist. Actually, he was a guitarist in two heavy metal bands, Paterna and Damageplan. The sad part about it is that during the performance, he was gunned down. I mean, during a live performance. Yeah, by some crazed fan. On of all dates, December the 8th, which is the same date that another crazy fan gunned down John Lennon.
Well, that's just depressing.
Yeah, so it's time for cake. Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, I hope we have fans, but we don't need them to be that ardent.
Agreed. Yes.
Well, thanks for that. That was
Sure.
pretty cool. So in our second half, we're going to chat about lessons learned from people who are at the end of their lives. And we've been talking about Frank Ostaszewski's book, The 5 Invitations, What Death Can Teach Us About Living Fully. And we all know that we're going to die, yet we spend much of our lives trying very hard not to think about it. But is it wise to ignore death? Could we live better if we spent more time thinking about our own mortality? Those are words from Frank Ostaszewski, who's a Buddhist teacher and who ran a hospice for, of course, people at the end of their life, and at that point, primarily for people with AIDS. So what Frank offers... Oh, are you...
I'm sorry.
I can't see your face. I can't see you, so I don't know you're trying to talk. There you are. What?
I need to move this computer. I don't know. I understand about what you were saying with, about thinking more about death. But I don't know. It seems to me it's not. I don't know. I don't think about death very much, but it seems to me there's a difference between thinking about it and letting it sink in, and just accepting it that it's just a part of life. You see, am I missing something? Because
no, but I think that you getting to that point, took you spending some time thinking about it. We don't have to think about it every day, but there are people who refuse to think about it at all, and like as though death were an option. And that, no, this isn't something I'm going to do. Well, yeah, you will, and you need to give it some thought. And there are people who are even very much at the end of their lives and don't want to talk about it. People don't want to say the word death. They, people passed away or you lost them. No, they died. And it's okay to say that word. So there's a lot of taboo around thinking about death, talking about death. I'm sure people see the name of our work and see everyone dies, and they're like, hell no, I don't know what they're doing, but I don't want to know about it, because it's just something that people don't want to do. And I think what Frank is saying is that you got to spend some time thinking about it, because how many people do you see, Charlie, who fritter away their lives and think that they have tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow? And unless you're Dorian Gray, you don't. See, now watch Charlie have to talk about Dorian Gray. He's not going to be able to pass up this piece of cheese.
Peggy Lee.
Tick-tock. Peggy Lee?
Is that all there is?
You mean you're not going to talk about the
picture? I'm sorry?
You're not going to talk about the picture of Dorian Gray. You're going to let that one go by.
Yes.
Well, all right then. So when Frank Ostaszewski writes, he talks about life and death going together. Everyone is born and everyone dies. He says that we can't truly live unless we have that awareness of death. And so he talked with a lot of people who were at the end of their lives. The 5 invitations show us how to wake up fully to our lives. They can be understood as best practices for anyone coping with loss or navigating any sort of transition or crisis. They guide us toward appreciating life's preciousness. Awareness of death can be a valuable companion on the road to living well, forging a rich and meaningful life, and letting go of regret. So this book offers that wisdom from people who are dying. And to recap, the 5 invitations are: don't wait, welcome everything, push nothing away, bring your whole self to the experience, find a place of rest in the middle of things, and cultivate a don't know mind. So we're on the fourth invitation, which is find a place in the middle of things. And Frank writes, we often think of rest as something that will come to us when everything else in our life is complete. At the end of the day, when we take a bath, once we go on holiday or get through with our to-do lists, that's when we will be able to rest. We imagine that we can only find rest by changing our circumstances. But this place of rest is always available to us. It's a choice to be alert and to bring attention to this moment in time. So, and we can become, I see people just addicted to being busy. I talked with a friend of mine and said, hey, did you happen, to listen to our podcast? She's, oh, I'm so busy. Let me tell you all the things I do. And just rattled off this laundry list of things that she does. And I thought, wow, why be so busy? Why is multitasking and productivity to the point of exhaustion such a thing? It's sort of a counterintuitive. It's like a counterintuitive question. What's right about being exhausted? I'm sorry, Charlie. What were you going to say?
It's just that people just always seem to, and I don't know if it's an emotional need or I don't know, psychological need to keep busy, because then I don't know. I just I used to work in a law office for a long time, and of course you're busy, but there just always seemed to be no time just to sit down and unhook the phone and just relax. It's like because then that gives you time to think.
And maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
so. When I used to mentor new faculty, and I can remember one woman saying to me, well, I just need to clear this off my plate, so that then I could deal with that. And I would say to her, your plate is never going to be clean. We're faculty. We work, I used to work 7 days a week. And in fact, I'd sometimes get something done in an email. It seemed like the universe knew that I got something done, because then I get an email with, this needs to be done by this date, and be like, geez, could I have had like 5 minutes to enjoy crossing something off my list?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes.
Before I had to put something else back on it. But it really almost feels like it's a contest to see who can be the most exhausted and who can be the most busy. And I just find that exhausting to watch people be that way. So, Charlie, how do you find calmness in the middle of chaos? Because, you live in New York City, so you're surrounded by chaos. How do you find calmness?
I pretty much, thanks to therapy, learn to recognize when I'm getting overexcited, or I'm starting to just feel, anxiety or feel pressure. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Now something just, I feel it, and something now just clicks and says, okay, what are you feeling pressure about? Is this something you can control? What's going on? Is this really the problem? Or was it that argument you had a couple days ago when you're still thinking about that? Why are you feeling this way now? And that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. That sounds that. So you take yourself some time. You give yourself some time to kind of process it and think about it and decide if it's real or if it's not.
Yeah, and sometimes like anyone else, sometimes I can't stop in the middle of what I'm doing and do that. But what does help is for me to recognize, I'm feeling tense. I don't want to listen to what this person is saying, etc. But I don't have time at that moment to figure out, where is this coming from? Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm at a point where I do recognize that I'm getting tense, And that's enough just to start to calm me down. And
That's good. That's a good strategy.
And to take a moment. And if I can't take a moment at that moment, it's, then, when I finish whatever I'm doing, then but the thing of it is I have to keep asking myself, what is this? What's going on? What are you doing? Yeah, I have to talk to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not just let it go or get angry at someone or do something that has absolutely nothing to do.
Because if you're not conscious of it, you kind of turn it inside and it starts to eat at you and become a negative behavior, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, a lot of times unconsciously, you're not even aware you're doing it. And then you don't understand why somebody else is getting mad at you, or you don't realize you're being snippy with someone. And yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Another way is to use your breath. We've talked about breathing techniques,
but right.
breath
Yeah.
Breath animates human life and it sustains it. So in meditation, we use breath to focus our attention on the present. So you can observe, you can feel your breath, breathe for 3 minutes, counting each exhale. And then when you notice you start finding that yourself getting distracted or, you've moved off counting, begin to count again and see how many breaths you can count before you become distracted. And that's like any muscle. If you were lifting weights, maybe you could do 1 and the next day you could do 2 and the next day you could do 3. It's the same thing with this, is that as you kind of train your brain to count and focus on your breathing to calm you, you get better and better at that. So the fifth and last invitation is to cultivate a don't know mind. So Frank writes that cultivate a don't know mind may seem confusing at first. Why should we seek to be ignorant? Don't know mind is one characterized by curiosity, by surprise, by wonder. It's being receptive, ready to meet whatever shows up as it is. A don't know mind is an invitation to enter life with fresh eyes, to empty our minds and open our hearts and just see and enjoy. You might have been, to the beach 1,000 times, but with a don't know mind, every time is the first time where you can breathe the air and, watch the sand and watch the waves and say to your, treat it as though it's the first time. So when our minds are made up, we tend to narrow our vision, obscure our ability to see the whole picture. And that really limits our capacity to act. So let yourself be surprised by things. Be flexible. I've often heard people say, I don't like surprises. And that kind of really means I really like to just control stuff, so don't try to surprise me.
Right.
But a don't know mind says, I can go with that. I can open myself up to that experience. There's an old tradition in Japan of Zen monks and others who would write a final poem when they were about to die. In the poem, or Jisoo, the essential idea was that one's final moment of life, one's reflection on death, could be especially lucid and therefore an important observation about life. The poem was considered a final parting gift to disciples. They often express an essential truth discovered in one's life. So Zen legend has it that a few days before his death, Kozan called his pupils together and ordered them to bury him without ceremony when he died. One morning, after writing this poem, he laid down his brush and died while sitting upright. So here's the poem he wrote. Empty-handed, I entered the world. Barefoot, I leave it. My coming, my going, 2 simple happenings that got entangled. That's by Kozan. Now this one is by Jeshu Soko. His last poem was breathing in, breathing out, moving forward, moving back, living, dying, coming, going, like two arrows meeting in flight in the mists of nothingness, in the road that goes directly to my true home. Now, some of the people who wrote these poems were a bit irreverent. A 19th century poet, Moriah Sanyan, penned, "Bury me when I die beneath a wine barrel in a tavern. With luck, the cask will leak." So what would your death poem say, do you think? We're going to put a link on our webpage if you want to read more about death poems, but we kind of would like if you would write one, and we'll read it to our listeners. You can send it to mail@everyonedies.org. That's mail@every, the number 1, dies.org. And, not being near, or at least not that I know of, being near the hour of my death, I don't know what my death poem would be. Do you have any ideas what yours would be?
That's all, folks.
I don't.
Kind of don't think so.
No. Oh, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe see you soon. Cheers.
But see, it's hard. We're not there.
I have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not there to be able to. I mean, it's like anything that we haven't experienced for ourselves yet. It's just an abstract idea. But there might be some of our listeners who are in hospice or are close to death, and that might be a good thing to try to think about and say, what is it you want to leave in terms of your words? So that's our second half. For our third half, I get to go out for drinks with death, and that's going to be fun. Welcome to our third half of Everyone Dies. Today, I'm drinking with death, and last time I had an interview with this death entity, she was going to tell me a joke, but she said it was too long. So do you want to try to save time at the end, or do you want to tell me now?
At the end. We'll save time at the end. I'd rather get to the questions.
All right, let's plan on that. For those of you who listened to the last recording from death, there's apparently different death entities. They're all different. They all have a different viewpoint and way of doing their jobs. And we have the opportunity to ask them questions. So if you have any questions, please email them to us and we'll ask them for you. So first question, Death, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Rich from Florida wants to know, why now?
Why now? You mean for each individual?
When you show up, I think what he wants to know is, why now?
Well, it's your time. I don't make the time. I'm just there. You see, I'm the end of the process. I have nothing to do with you're dying. The reason you're dying, it could be because of an accident or wars or an illness or suicide. And I have nothing to do with that. I'm just there for the end result, which is your death. So I don't know why. Some people are quite ready to go and other people fight it. But eventually, I take them.
My father used to always say, when your number's up, your number's up. When you're going to go, you're going to go. And that, I think, was his explanation for not stopping smoking or not exercise or not losing weight. Is that really true? Is it when your number's up, no matter what you've done to try to stay healthy?
No. With some people, I know a man who exercised all of his life and always ate the good foods, not the bad foods, and was always wonderful, didn't smoke cigarettes. He got lung cancer and lived for quite a while with lots of treatment. But when it was his time to go. There are all kinds of reasons that people. Well, I'll give you another example. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, who decide that they don't want to live anymore, that life is too painful. Well, not all of them really want to die. They just want the pain to stop. So there was a case that there was a person who had tried several times to commit suicide. And I knew there was more to this person than death. And so I didn't take her. I did not take her. And she got help and went on and lived many, many, many years. So sometimes I realize it's not their time. And other times.
Do you think she was grateful that you didn't take her in the end?
Oh, yes. I used to go back and visit and make sure, because I never had the task of going again until she was very, very old. And she died. But she lived on. She lived on and had family and had a good life. So, and there are other people who, no matter what, if I would let them go, they would try and try and try and try and just didn't want, and I would take them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Are some deaths harder for you than others?
Well, yes, especially the little children with that terrible disease, cancer, and I really. But if there's no hope for them to get well, and they're suffering, and they've been through so much, it's really better for them to end the suffering. But if I have the feeling that there will be something in the future to help them to be well, then I won't take them. I won't take them. In fact, there was a beautiful little girl named Isabella who had a brain cancer. And there was another little girl, Nora, who had brain cancer. And they're both doing beautifully now, beautifully. So no, I don't take the little ones unless it's absolutely necessary. But I'll tell you one time that I did take someone that I felt badly, but I knew it was the best. First World War, the day before Armistice Day, an American soldier was horribly wounded, lost his leg, and was bleeding to death on the field, and there was nobody to get him, nobody to help him. I took him. The next day, I wound up back in the United States, and his sister was suffering terribly from the influenza epidemic in that time in 1918. I took her because I knew that she was very, very ill, but I knew if she learned about her brother, that probably would have brought death to her anyway. So I took her out of her misery. That was hard, but if, as some people believe, you see your loved one, then maybe they got to be together.
So how do you know where the next place you need to go in terms of escorting somebody to the door?
Well, I have a little bit of discretion with that. I can say, I think right now, where I'm most needed, I just came back from New York, and I think things are changing there. But I just know somehow something, that little computer or whatever that thing is inside me, lets me know the places that are in need of death. And of course, there are many others like I am. But I'm a floater. I just go where I know I'm needed.
So it's an intuitive sort of thing for you.
Yes, yes.
So how are you
See, I
handling?
don't know if I'm human. I don't think I'm a human being because if I were, death would have taken me. So I'm not a human being.
Mhm. So now I want to hear your joke.
Oh, all right. Okay. Um, a man was out doing some yard work, and he looked up and he saw coming up the street this huge procession, a man in front, a hearse, and then a lot of men behind, another hearse, and a lot of men behind the second hearse. And he thought, ooh, it must be some dignitary. I want to find out. So he ran to the man at the head of the procession and he said, I'm sorry to bother you. I don't want to be disrespectful, but was this some kind of a dignitary who died? And the man said, oh, no. In this first hearse, it's my wife. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? And the man said, well, we had this dog and she didn't like the dog. The dog didn't like her and the dog mauled her. She got infected and died. He said, oh, that's horrible. I'm so sorry. And he said, what happened? Who's in the second hearse? And he said, oh, my mother-in-law. He said, your mother-in-law too? Oh, she must have been distraught about her daughter's death. And he said, no, same thing. She didn't like the dog. The dog didn't like her. He mauled her. She got infected and she died as well. And the man who was asking the questions thought for a minute and he said, can I borrow the dog? And the other man said, get in line.
That's terrible.
I like that. I have more. Next time I'll tell you another one.
Okay. Well, it was great drinking with you tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes we can even have coffee. It doesn't always have to be alcohol, you know. It could be both.
I thought it could be both. We could go to Denny's and have a moon over my hammy.
That would be fun.
All right. Well, Death, you take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for chatting with me.
My pleasure, dear. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Everyone Dies. Our thanks to our executive producer, retired Major General David, our producer Sandy, John, our technical advisor, Molly, our Twitter correspondent, and our friends, family, and our loyal listeners who are supporting our work at Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we look forward to talking with you soon. Remember, every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.